if you guys are interested. So yeah, that's a little bit about the Machinga native people. And there's a number of different spellings for Machinga, so that's not the only one. There are other much more isolated groups. The term uncontacted is a bit of a misnomer. They are not uncontacted. As a matter of fact, the mashco-piro group was made by an act of contact. There's a movie called Fitzcarraldo. You guys can probably look it up online, find it for free. And that movie is about a rubber baron. I believe he was from Germany, I think. And he basically enslaved two different native groups, the mashcos, which just mean the wild ones, we don't really know much about them, and the piros, who are today known as the Yine. He basically enslaved these groups and did all sorts of terrible things to them, tortured them, did all sorts of bad stuff. And he made them drag a steamboat from one river to the headwaters of the Rio Manu to open up the Rio Manu for rubber tapping, which the rubber boom in the Amazon was pretty much like the Amazonian Holocaust. It was the worst period in Amazonian history for the natives. So a part of this group that had been enslaved decided, well, I would rather just run off in the jungle than be this guy's slave. So that's what created the mashco-piro tribe, who even until this day, if they see people like us with clothes, or even other natives with regular clothes or modern, modern things, they will either shoot arrows at them or run. And there's been a number of incidents where people have been killed. In 2011 and 2015, there were two different people killed by the mashco-piros who got a little too close and were shot with arrows. Actually, a Machinga friend of mine named Leo saw the mashco-piros. They were near his land taking yucca that the Machinga had planted. And he raised the camera to take a picture of him, and when he did that, they shot him in the heart with an arrow and killed him. Yeah. So it's a pretty crazy situation. However, I don't blame them because of what they went through. They have every reason to be scared of the modern world. And even now, when illegal loggers or drug traffickers see them, like if they see them across the river, they'll just take out a gun and shoot them. So it's reinforced in their minds the modern world is bad. However, there are more often, slowly, the mashco-piros are coming out to the beaches. And there's been some missionaries and some anthropologists and stuff that have contacted them. The missionaries were giving them Coca-Cola and stuff. Very, very strange. But this is dangerous because obviously they could be dangerous for us, but also we could be very dangerous for them by giving them microbes that they have no resistance to. These extremely isolated tribes basically have the same resistance that the native people of the Americas would have had when the Spanish arrived, and up to 90% or more of the population died when Europeans or Spanish arrived in the New World. So they don't have any resistance to the common cold, to flu, and to different diseases that we have. So it is best to let them make their own choice about when they want to come out of the forest and in what way they want to do that, and how they want to live and interact with the modern world. So I would... Peru's doing a fairly okay job, more or less, of protecting their reserve and their land and trying to keep people out. I wish there was some more park guards to enforce the borders and whatnot, because there are illegal loggers and drug traffickers, as I said, that get into these areas because no one else goes there, because they're willing to break the law, so they use some of these places, like their own personal place to cut down trees or make. Okay. So yeah, we need protection for the mashco-piro people. I have a Facebook group that has more information about this if you guys would like to learn more. I think raising awareness is one of the most important ways that we can help these people to be left alone and allowed to make their own choices about when they come out of the forest and in which way. So many Amazonian people use something known as curare, which is either a Chandradendrum species or a curare species. And this is their famous arrow or dart poison. So you boil the plant, and then you get this, you boil it down into a resin basically, and you roll it on the tips of your arrows or darts. In Ecuador, groups like the Guarani use blowguns with this poison. So all you have to do is hit a monkey or whatever you may be shooting with a little dart, and in a couple minutes he'll fall out of the tree. Interesting thing about it is not, you could ingest the poison. As long as you don't have like a cut in your mouth or an ulcer in the stomach or something, the poison can be ingested. However, if it enters the bloodstream, if you prick your finger with it, you will probably die. The only way, it paralyzes the lungs, and the only way to keep someone alive is to have artificial respiration going for up to 36 hours as the poison leaves the system. Other than that, you'll die. Francisco de Orellana, who was one of the first Europeans to go down the Amazon River, they left out of Quito, I think, and he ended up all the way in the mouth of the Amazon and then sailed back to Spain. One of his men, they were attacked by Amazonian natives on one section of the river, and the men were hiding down below the wall of the boat. But one guy was hit with an arrow, but it came from so far away, it pierced his skin slightly, and then it just fell out. And he thought, oh, I'm fine. And 5 minutes later, he was foaming at the mouth and convulsing, and then he died from the curare. So yeah, very powerful poison. Each group sort of has its own recipe for it. So they'll use one of these two species, but then they'll mix things like the heads of snakes or different poisonous insects or other poisonous plants into the mixture. So they all sort of have a unique poison that they use. A very interesting thing about it, I think it was even up into the 40s and 50s, they were sourcing curare from Amazonian people to use in hospitals and in the medical industry, because they would use it during surgery to paralyze your body so that you didn't move during surgery. I think it may still be used in some places or some cases around the world, but I'm not 100% sure about that. So Nicotiana tabacum and Nicotiana rustica, that is tobacco and mapacho. You can see here a Machinga friend of mine named Renee is blowing some rapé, or snuff, up my nose, powdered tobacco, known as seri to the Machinga. And it is, as I said before, one of the most popular and important psychoactives among Amazonian peoples. So tobacco obviously contains nicotine. We have two different species here. Nicotiana tabacum is the more classical tobacco, like if you bought a pack of cigarettes in the store, that's Nicotiana tabacum. And then Nicotiana rustica has, it varies, the literature, anywhere from 3 to 10 times the amount of nicotine as Nicotiana tabacum. And that's what most Amazonian groups use. So it's very strong. They blow it up your nose, it hurts, then you feel hot and kind of sick. Lots of fun, but if you're bored in the jungle, I guess it's something to do. But tobacco also has the association of a spiritual, ceremonial plant, and it's said that the smoke carries the prayers to heaven among some groups. So tobacco and mapacho. There are a number of interesting petroglyphs in the Amazon. These are rock carvings. You can see here in these two pictures, this is the site of Puxaro, which is said to be either the hallucinations of shamans or a map to the lost city of gold, whatever you want to believe. I just sort of just included this because I find it very interesting, and I've gone to these sites, and they're really amazing and enigmatic, and no one really knows what they are. But this sort of symbology, the swirls and various things are found throughout Peru. There's even some above the ruins of Tipan, which I went looking for the other day and did not find. So now this plant, all the plants that I have talked about previously are fairly safe. San Pedro, you cannot overdose on it as far as I'm aware. The typical dose with San Pedro of mescaline is 300 to 500 milligrams, but there are reports of people taking up to 8,000 milligrams of mescaline and surviving. So it's pretty safe. However, this plant is not safe at all. It's very, very dangerous. Very powerful plant. This is Richard Evan Schultes.